creepy example of foreshadowing and/or revelation of the method. I bought this magazine back in 2012 off of eBay because it's David Rockefeller, the man who more than anyone made sure that the Twin Towers got built so that he could destroy them with people inside. And it's shortly after construction began, so I thought there might be some interesting, sneaky revelation of the method style language in the article. Then I noticed that he has the hands of his quite visible watch set at 9 and 11. I always felt like there must be more to this cover, but it took me 3 years to figure it out. As you can see, he's sitting in the window of his office in 1967, 8 months after the groundbreaking for the building of the World Trade Center, with the hands of his watch set at 9 and 11, like I said. 9 and 11 on clocks was one of their favorite ways to foreshadow the upcoming date of their mass murder. They did this in many movies, television shows, and even commercials in the lead-up to 9/11. Either the hands are pointing almost exactly at 9 and 11, or it's 11 minutes after 9. There was always something that bothered me about the so-called plane hole on the north face of the North Tower, the iconic one that really represents the 9/11 false flag and the one that they show us the most. I knew it was an important shape and angle for Rockefeller, and he knew well in advance exactly what he was going to make sure that it looked like. After all, it appears on the $10 bill back in the 1990s series, along with all the other scenes from 9/11 laid out in perfect order on the bills. This is also one of the first things that showed me that there were no planes used on 9/11. So the other day it occurred to me, the fake plane hole on the North Tower looks like one of the wounds that was on the Jesus statue on the crucifix at the church when I was a kid. Same shape and angle. So I start looking up crucifixion images just to be sure, and this article comes up. Jesus' crucifixion date, possibly April 3rd, 33 AD, according to earthquake study. See, the Bible says that when Jesus died, the ground shook, and they're able to go back that far and figure out when earthquakes occurred, apparently. April 3rd just happens to be the date of this magazine. So then I checked how many years there were between 33 AD, the probable year of the crucifixion, and 2001, the year of the mass human sacrifice on 9/11, foreshadowed on Rockefeller's watch. The number was 1967, represented by the year seen here. In case you haven't heard, many people have been saying for quite a while that the probable actual birth date of Jesus was September 11, 3 BC. On that date, Jupiter, the king of the planets, collided with Regulus, the regal star, in Leo, the king constellation. I'll link to a much more thorough explanation below, but to me, it's one of those things that make a lot of sense. And after studying these people for a while, it's exactly the type of thing they like to do. Take something pure and important to a lot of people and twist it and pervert it. Have the sheep celebrate the birth of Christ on the wrong day, coinciding with a pagan holiday, actually. The very word Christmas does not mean the birth of Christ, but in fact his death. So they take the date 9/11 and corrupt it into something that in our minds signifies emergency, and make the actual day into a day of terror and sadness and mourning. And this is just the creepy member of their club that would enjoy gloating about it on a magazine cover. In the 1940s, David Rockefeller's uncle Winthrop Aldrich was on a committee to attempt to get the World Trade Center built back then. They were also foreshadowing 9 and 11 in the 1944 movie Double Indemnity, and even throwing in an allusion to the name Rockefeller in the same film. In the 1960s, a plan was introduced for a nationwide emergency number. Britain implemented 999 as their emergency number back in the 1930s. Australia and New Zealand selected 999 and 111 respectively as their emergency numbers in the 1950s. Yet for some reason, in 1968, just a year after this magazine came out, AT&T announced at a press conference that a universal emergency number was being established for the U.S. However, instead of 3 like numbers for ease of dialing in a crisis, numbers that could not be further apart on the dial would be used. 9 and 1 and 1 had been chosen by a computer, they said. Besides being a client of the Rockefeller-funded and directed RAND Brainwashing Institute, the 1975 book The Rockefeller Syndrome lists AT&T as just one of the many companies under Rockefeller control or influence. In the book Rockefeller, the Man Who Misrules the World, AT&T is referred to as the Rockefellers' family-owned monopoly. So they used their power to make the numbers 911, birth date of the Prince of Peace, signify danger and crisis, and after September 11, 2001, heartache and mourning. Rockefeller puppet Ronald Reagan even designated September 11, 1987 to be 911 Emergency Number Day, calling on the people of the United States to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And every year, like clockwork, the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, an enormous representation of the one thing the Bible tells us not
to drag into our homes and decorate with gold and silver, is lit at 8:55 p.m., when hands on the clock are exactly as they are on Rockefeller's watch. So here we have David Rockefeller, the man who was instrumental more than anyone on the planet in ensuring that the Twin Towers got built. Less than a year after the construction began, with the probable date of the crucifixion of Christ above his head, along with the years between that event and 2001 listed here, and the probable date of Christ's birthday and, of course, the date of the mass murder that took place in his towers in 2001 on his watch. A mass murder during which a slice appeared 1,000 feet up over southern Manhattan for all the world to see, similar to the wound depicted in many images of the person that the event seems to revolve around. And just as a side note, if you open this thing up, there's a cigarette ad on the back cover that puts two tower-looking things in red right about where the towers are being built, to David Rockefeller's right, if this picture continued west. So this is what we're dealing with. Sick, arrogant people that feel the need to put their mark on everything in an attempt to convince us that they have total control of everything, which means they don't. As for God and Jesus and the Bible, I know it's trendy to be an atheist and hate all religion, but obviously those who hoard the knowledge, the same people that do very well if we're misinformed, plan their events around these things we're not supposed to believe in. Maybe they know something we don't. All pertinent links in the description, and thanks for watching.